but resist we much. We must and we will much about that be committed.
Could not have said it better myself. What an icon, what an American icon is the Reverend Al Sharpton. He is eloquent, right? He's articulate. He's bright. And, well, he's not very clean, let's be honest. Not especially clean. Clean might be the wrong word to use, wrong word. Joe Biden might use that word because where is Joe Biden anyway? To say that he's vanished would be generous. Joe Biden, where did he go? Where is he? What happened to him? And his brain, of course, we've been wondering that for a long time. And a most outstanding Friday to you all. Welcome back once again. The number of wackadoodle Democrat moments. You see the violent attack against Turning Point USA students at the University of California at Davis. More violence because the Democrat Party loves violence. They're a violent party. Their violence is them. We be violence, as the Democrat Party likes to say. They should have bumper stickers, shouldn't they? And T-shirts and things just to let everybody know. The Democrat Party, they're not good at, being people. Being people is the thing. They're good at violence. They are good at violence. We've got a lot of examples of that madness. Turning Points, you masked agitators. Trash Turning Point USA event at UC Davis. Assault students. They're assaulting students. And you know, it's when they're not assaulting the... Oh, I got to tell you this. One of the stories I really like today is a police chief in Minnesota, where they're Minnesota nice. And I saw it on Al Gore's Amazing Internet yesterday. Actually, my best girl shared with me a tweet put out by Juanita Broaddrick. And I've met Juanita Broaddrick, and I like and respect Juanita Broaddrick, and she's very busy on Twitter. And there's this police chief in Minnesota who nabbed a Democrat, a young woman in her 20s, who vandalized a Tesla in Minnesota, doubtless belonging to another Democrat liberal Tesla driver. And when the Tesla owner reported the crime of keying the car, which is not a nice thing to do, but not felony assault either, but not a nice thing to do. And the police actually caught the perpetrator. And the police chief there, in a video, because everybody puts everything on video now, and he talked about how they've resolved the situation because the owner of the Tesla said, all I want is for the perp. That's short for the perpetrator. I like to abbreviate sometimes. And the perpetrator should pay for the repairs to her Tesla. I assume it's a her. I don't know why I assume it's her because they don't say. Could be a him, but it's Minnesota, so it might be somewhere in between. A lot of Democrats up there. And the owner of the Tesla just wants the perpetrator that keyed the Tesla to pay for the Tesla. And the police chief, like Andy Griffith and Mayberry, he says, well, it's been resolved. And all the owner of the Tesla wants is for the person, the young woman, a liberal, a Democrat, that vandalized the Tesla to pay for the repairs to the Tesla, which probably won't be free, probably won't be entirely inexpensive either, but interesting. And then the police chief said something like, of course, the perpetrator in this case is a victim too. And that is where Twitter and the internet started to go mad because what do you mean the perpetrator is a victim? But I want to share with you what the police chief said because I think my take on this yesterday, and again, my best girl shared it with me. She texted it to me on our telephones. Have you seen this? It's pretty fancy. And I watched the video before I looked at any of the Twitter traffic, which is, Twitter. And I think that my conclusion in all of this might have been different than the popular conclusion in this instance. And I want to share with you because there's video, so I can share the audio portion of it with you on the radio with all that going on. And remarkable stuff. I I think I like this police chief there. And what he said is important, and every filthy, rotten, violence, flame-fanning Democrat in the country should be gaffers taped into a chair and have their eyelids pinned open, like in A Clockwork Orange, and be forced to watch this sheriff over and over again until they get what he was trying to communicate, because I think what he was trying to communicate was probably on the money. I think it was accurate and correct. But I want to share that with you because I watched it, and then I saw what everybody was saying about it, and I said, well, let me talk to the nice people about that on the radio tomorrow, because my view is apparently very different than the popular view as to what the police chiefs have. People are like, this police chief needs to be fired. He needs to resign. He needs to step down. And I'm taking into account that it's Minnesota, which used to be full of nice people, and then the Democrats came and they became crazy people some time ago, which is problematic. But I want to share that with you because it's real interesting. That's what I've got to say about that. President Trump he was on Air Force One yesterday, and every time he's on Air Force One, he essentially holds a full-length press conference, right? Full-length press conference. And so we've got a lot of President Trump on a whole range of topics because he's the most open and transparent president certainly since electricity came along, and probably before that as well. But he can't stop talking to the press, even though the press is there to assassinate him. They're there to myrtleize him and destroy his presidency and all that good stuff. But I've got a bunch of President Trump I want to share with you today as well, because good stuff from President Trump. So often the case, isn't it? Yes, it is. Also crazy. Here's a headline in the Washington Post, which used to be a newspaper, but really isn't and hasn't been for a long time. Why Gen Z men love Trump's reign of destruction. Well, the headline tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? You guys should stop with all the violent rhetoric and listen to the police chief from Minnesota, perhaps, because the Democrat Party caused this Tesla car to be keyed in Minnesota and this young woman to be arrested. And did you see her? She looks like she might have pronouns. What do you think what her pronouns are? I think it's a woman, but I'm thinking pronouns might be part of the discussion when it comes to the woman that keyed the Tesla. The Democrat Party inspired the violent attack on the Turning Point USA. They're pro-American. They have the American flag. Democrats are there to burn it and violently attack everyone because they're like Nazis, like fascists. For how long have I been saying they should be wearing armbands so we can spot them in public? I think that's long overdue. Maybe we should design armbands for the Democrats. What would the Democrat Party armband look like? They would have no resemblance to the American flag, that's for sure. Unless it was burning. Maybe it could be burning. Like that guy in Amsterdam yesterday. He set himself on fire. I wonder if it was a Democrat just visiting Holland from the United States. We've got that. But why, Jen, and the attack at UC Davis, the violent fire bombings of Teslas and shooting up Tesla dealerships and terrorizing Tesla drivers out on the road, 100% on the leadership of the Democratic Party, if you can call it that. And I tend to avoid calling it that. I don't use red, blue either, because the communists are red and the Democrat Party is red. They're not blue, or maybe BLEW, but they're not the color blue, not by a long shot. So why Gen Z men love Trump's reign of destruction? I'm sorry, if there's a reign of destruction in America, it is 100% on the filthy, radical left-wing Democrats in the United States of America who are inspiring the assassinations of CEOs on the sidewalks of New York, of Walgreens employees just stocking the shelves in California. The leadership of the Democrat Party is inspiring murder and assassination and arson and fire bombings and shooting up. Choose a location. Where was it? In Nevada, the Republican Party headquarters was firebombed and attacked just days ago. And the so-called mainstream news media, bunch of filthies that they are, they don't even cover it. That, the Republican Party headquarters was firebombed in Nevada. Let's not cover that, because that's our news media. Aren't they great? They're really some. Oh, speaking of Democrats, today is also, what is it now, the 57th anniversary, I believe, of the shot rang out in a Memphis sky. You know, it is April 4th in the United States of America, and that means it's the anniversary, the 57th, I believe, anniversary of the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And let's keep it in mind, James Earl Ray is an amazing Democrat Party. The assassin, the man who pulled the trigger and killed Martin Luther King, was, of course, a Democrat Party volunteer, just like James Hodgkinson, who shot Congressman Steve Scalise on a baseball field not too far from where I am now, was a Democrat Party campaign volunteer, just like James Earl Ray was a Democrat Party presidential campaign volunteer. James Earl Ray was. And do you know what happened to James Earl Ray? It's a fascinating story that the Democrat Party doesn't like to talk about because they're the filthy ones in the story, and they don't like the truth being told about the Democratic Party. But today is the anniversary, and so I want to share with you the story of James Earl Ray, a Democrat who shot and killed the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And I told you the story a while back about the guy I'd called Dad growing up, my stepfather, who was a CBS News reporter, and he was invited by the mortician back to the slab where Martin Luther King's body was to inspect the assassinated remains of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, a story that my stepfather told me only a few years ago for the first time, which I found to be interesting. But we've got that today, too, because anniversaries are important. And the Democrat Party needs to be remembered for who they are and what they are. As they're perpetrating violence all over the country today, as they're inciting and instigating assassinations like CEOs in New York, Walgreens employees in California, the murderous violence coast to coast. Oh, one of their illegal aliens ran over and killed a University of South Carolina student, a young man who everybody loved, brilliant future, looks like a real nice young man. And an illegal alien crashed into this young man riding his motorcycle, killed him, fled the scene, ran away because I think the Democrats gave him a card when he came in illegally and told him, when you run over college students and kill them, you should flee the scene. That's a part of the Democrat Party's playbook. Amazing stuff. So we've got just a few Democrat Party updates for them. And 19 Democrat state attorneys general sue over Trump's election integrity executive order. Just the News has the story. John Solomon's organization, the great John Solomon. And 19 state attorneys general sue the Trump administration over the election integrity. And you know what that reveals is that the Democrats are dead set against election integrity. They really don't like election integrity. They love MS-13 and the Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. But election integrity, they're very much against. Also, I want to share with you, the stock market took a hit yesterday, and the news media is excited. They're giddy to announce that they think the stock market will take another hit today because President Trump announced tariffs against a whole lot of countries because he's renegotiating the entire global trade situation when it comes to the interests of the United States. He's on our side this time. It seems that when we negotiated our trade deals around the world, whoever was negotiating for us was not on our side, Republicans and Democrats alike over the course of decades. But President Trump, he wants to straighten that out, level the playing field, and find trade agreements that will benefit us and not everybody else in the world except us, which is what we currently have. Amazing stuff. But the stock market took a hit yesterday, and the news media couldn't have been more excited yesterday. They're very excited today, too, in anticipation, because, whatever's bad for the United States of America is good for the Democratic Party. Therefore, they cheer and root for what is bad for all of us because it's good for them. They're not on our side. So we've got that going. But I want to explain something about the stock market yesterday and put it into context for you, something that the Washington Post and CNN and 60 Minutes and the New York Times will never do because they're filthy corruptniks. I got to tell you, they should go hold a rally at UC Davis, the New York Times and CNN. We are at 888-630-9625. So many remarkable stories, and I collect the news, the information, the history, provide the context, and I've got a lot of that for you today. I got the Lizard King, Chuck Schumer, and AOC. 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. The Democrat Party. Violence, mayhem, assassinations, murders, shootings, fire bombings. The Democratic Party, the party of the white knights, of the KKK, of the Confederate States of America. Here is San Francisco outlet SFgate. The headline is pretty good stuff. I feel dumb for being an American. I feel dumb for being an American. Well, I can assure you it has nothing to do with being an American. It's more genetic. It's your family tree where you should perhaps still be living. The headline, when you click on it, America lived fast and is now dying young. Well, you guys are trying to choke it to death. I'll give you that. SFgate columnist Drew McGarry writes on trying to survive in the fire of Donald Trump's America. Well, but you guys are the ones firebombing everything. So I got an idea. Stop shooting people and stop firebombing everything. I wake up, it's another day in Donald Trump's America, but I try not to think about that. You're probably pretty good at that. I'm thinking you're probably pretty good at that because this guy, Drew McGarry, low IQ theater, San Francisco. You should go out and help remove the dead bodies from the sidewalks of San Francisco that you've left there. But never mind that. I try not to think about the name, given that I haven't even gotten out of bed yet. It's too early for America right now. I can deal with my country later, once I'm ready. I maybe should go down to UC Davis and you can violently attack people as Democrats did there yesterday. Maybe the Democrat Party should be banned as a violent organization. I get out of bed and take stock of my immediate surroundings. Do you live any place high off the ground? Because that could be dangerous for you. Sunlight is already poking through the curtains. You must hate that, you know. They're not happy unless they're not happy. My wife and dog are still asleep in the bed. I don't even want to start raising the questions that naturally arise from that. Isn't that amazing? The Democrat Party. I want to share with you the sheriff from the police chief from Minnesota. Yes. Now, I mentioned that last night with my best girl at home. My best girl said, you see this story? And I had not. And she shared it with me by texting a tweet from Juanita Broaddrick, who was, of course, attacked and assaulted by Bill Clinton, a Democrat president and sexual predator, in good with the Democrat Party, always was, because they're fine with that, the Democratic Party is. But let me share with you the Star Tribune out of Minneapolis. Police chief in Minnesota gives break to Tesla vandal. Calls for rhetorical ceasefire over Elon Musk. That's the headline in the Star Tribune, one of the headlines in the Star Tribune. Now, the incident occurred when a crazy Democrat woman in her 20s saw a Tesla vehicle in a parking lot. There's video of it, of course, because there's video of everything. And the Democrat woman, who could probably skip a meal and it would be okay, saw the Tesla, went over and keyed, that is, vandalized the Tesla vehicle, because the Democrat Party inspired her to be filled with hatred and to desire violence and to create damage, because that's the history of the Democrat Party from the Civil War to Martin Luther King's assassination forward. And so this woman in her 20s, according to the police chief, saw the Tesla, couldn't contain herself, keyed the vehicle, causing, because it's a Tesla, thousands of dollars in damage to the Tesla. And just to give you the thumbnail here, the person, either male or female, maybe somewhere in between, a Minnesota Democrat driving a Tesla. The owner of the Tesla discovered that this porcine woman was arrested by the police and was on video committing the crime, and it's a hate crime and a political hate crime. And if if it were a Republican doing it, it'd be big national news. But our filthy, rotten, corrupt news media, they're another thing altogether. So the woman was arrested and came in with her family because, though she's, I think, in her late 20s, she's presumably still living at home with her parents because somebody's got to feed her and got to keep filling the feed bag. And so she came in with her family because they've infantilized her, which is pretty normal, too. And the owner of the Tesla said, listen, I just want her to pay for the damage to the Tesla. I don't need her to hang with piano wire from the highest tree or anything. Just tell her that she's got to pay for the repairs to my very expensive Tesla automobile. And so then the chief of police came out and posted a video. It didn't look like a press conference or anything. He just posted a video where he talked about it. And this has caused great upheaval on Al Gore's amazing internet. And I have an opinion about this. You might imagine I've got an opinion about this. But let me go to the Star Tribune, another article, a separate article from the Star Tribune newspaper in Minnesota. Tesla vandal is spared charges after inflicting thousands of dollars of damage in Twin Cities lot. You know, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities. And it's kind of, and then the subheadline, because they still try to do a little bit of news there, I think. Quote, we need our leaders to start leading and stop feeding this rhetoric, Police Chief Booker T. Hodges said. His name is Booker T., but he's a black guy, and his name is Booker T. My name is not Booker T., but his name is Booker T. Now I want to play the audio for you of the police chief posting a video about this incident, and it's gotten a lot of people on the Twitter really riled up. But my opinion, I think, is not the predominant opinion on the Twitter. So here is the Bloomington Police Chief, Booker T., talking about the incident, soundbite number 14.
The suspect here is a woman in their late 20s. They turned themselves in. They were brought in with their family. They've been fully cooperative. The victim in this case just wanted their car fixed, and they just wanted the suspect to pay for that.
Now, that's Minnesota. It's Bloomington, Minnesota. It's not Times Square in New York. And the people of Minnesota are Minnesota nice. That's the word most commonly used to talk about Minnesota people. And the chief of police here, or the Pief of Chalice, could be the Pief of Chalice, he's just trying to do the right thing and resolve this without turning it into a major federal case. And he said, I might, and it's fine. I mean, I might get beat up over this too, and that's fine with me. But note the they, their. We didn't get a them in there in their late 20s coming in with their family. It's a her. You can see the video. It's clearly biologically. We have to say that about Democrats now. Well, she's a Democrat, so how does she identify her gender? Well, I don't know. I heard a lot of they and their in there.
They turned themselves in. They were brought in with their family.
Note that there's no she or her in there, which I thought was kind of interesting. You look at the video, and if you saw her in a parking lot in Minnesota, you might wonder if it was a they or their as well, and wonder whether they can use the HOV lanes, even though she is driving by herself. So Booker T on the Tesla.
But let me be clear here. In Bloomington, you probably have never heard me utter these words. The suspect in this case may have been a victim, And I mean victim in terms of the rhetoric that is being spewed out here by some of those in leadership. We need our leaders to start leading and stop feeding this rhetoric.
We need our leaders to start leading and stop feeding this rhetoric. Well, what rhetoric could he possibly be talking about? He's talking about the hate rhetoric, and he says leaders and leadership. Now, there is not a Republican leader, not an elected Republican in the country that has demonized Elon Musk or vilified Tesla as a corporation or as an automobile. But Democrats and the chief of police here, who is quite honestly probably a Democrat himself, I read about him, and he's and honestly in the video he seems like a very nice guy and be a good neighbor and all that. But I was reading about the chief of police, Booker T. Hodges. He's been an unconscious bias instructor, again, black guy, for over 20 years. Unconscious bias. And he's a certified human resources manager. He's human resources manager. He does write a column. He's a member of the editorial board of Police One, policeone.com. So he likes law enforcement. But he's talking about, and he says the perpetrator, the suspect, who is under arrest after being brought in by their family. How many of you are there? And probably living on a couch in mom's basement, a very sturdy couch. And says that I'm going to just say she because you can obviously identify this person as a female person, but says that the perpetrator may be a victim too, a victim of rhetoric coming from leadership, vilifying and demonizing Elon Musk, whose life is in grave danger every day. Tesla drivers across the country are being targeted and attacked. I've shared multiple stories just this week happening in Washington, D.C., to California, to Oregon, and beyond, with violent rabble that is today's Democratic Party. They've always been violent rabble, going at least back to the American Civil War, but never mind that. So the suspect may be a victim too, he says. And then he talks about leaders and the leadership and the rhetoric and what he's saying is that this woman, they, them, may be a victim of the rhetoric, and he's very clearly talking about the Democratic Party's leadership and the vilification and the demonization of Elon Musk and of Tesla, who they used to praise 20 minutes ago, historically speaking. And here's Chief Booker T.
People should be able to drive whatever car they want.
I think so.
Without fear of going into a store and someone scratching their car or people yelling at them because of the car that that they choose to drive.
But I've got to say, so now on Twitter, and it started with Juanita Broaddrick, and she's wonderful, but said, this guy should be fired. And people are saying he should resign. He's a disgrace to the uniform. And you got to keep in mind that it's Bloomington, Minnesota, and not Chicago or Washington, D.C. or Baltimore. And Minnesota nice is an old phrase, and he's like the Andy Griffith of Bloomington, Minnesota. And he resolved it between the perp, the woman with the they there, and the owner of the Tesla. Thousands of dollars of damage. You got to pay it. Came in apparently with her mommy and daddy to the police and was cooperating and blah, blah, blah. But then the chief said, and this is what every filthy, rotten, violence-craving elected Democrat in the country needs to hear from the chief of police there, and that is that your rhetoric is inspiring violence perpetrated by portly 20-something-year-old women in Minnesota and by people in restaurants in Washington, D.C., and in Los Angeles, California, and your anti-Semitism, your anti-Teslaism. The left is here. These people are not liberals. If you're sitting at a restaurant and see a Tesla drive by and you flip it off and yell curse words at the person driving the Tesla, you are not a liberal. You're a fascist bit of rabble. And who was it? It was Alec Baldwin the other day talking about how in the United States we're in a pre-Civil War state, right? in a state of because he watched some Ken Burns documentary. Not a bright man. And then he shot his cinematographer again. That was kind of weird, I thought. But the chief of police, and this is the part, and before I looked at any of the Twitters being angry with the police chief, this is the part that I pointed out to my best girl.
The suspect in this case may have been a victim.
May have.
And I mean victim in terms of the rhetoric that is being spewed out here by some of those in leadership.
Who's that? The suspect here may have been a victim. And when I say victim, I'm talking about of the rhetoric being spewed by leadership. Now, who's he talking about there? He's talking about 100% of the time Democrat Party leaders that are targeting people for hate and vilification because of their rabid, psychotic, violent political agenda, the Democrat Party. Suspect may have been a victim of the rhetoric spewed by leadership and leaders. Now, it's unambiguous who he's talking about here. And he, again, may very well be a Democrat police chief in Bloomington, Minnesota.
We need our leaders to start leading and stop feeding this rhetoric.
Stop feeding this rhetoric.
All I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes.
There you go. I mean, Democrat members of Congress like that mentally disturbed lunatic, beloved by the news media who want to date her, and the Democrat Party who want to promote her. And Elon Musk, they had their day of hate. It was just last Saturday, wasn't it? So much hate since last Saturday by the Democrats, and so much violence since last Saturday by the Democrats. And if we include last Saturday, the attacks on Tesla dealerships all over the country and all that good stuff. Just amazing. But the chief of police, Booker T. Hodges, saying that the suspect may have been a victim, and what he's done, and then there was no Q&A or anything like that, and he's just Minnesota nice, and he walks away, and thanks, and he goes away, right?
It's time for all of us, just to start getting along and knock this stuff off, man. People should be able to be left alone. But rest assured, if you damage these cars or target people, we are going to arrest you. We are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent that we're able to.
Can't we all just get along? Honestly, can't we? Can't we all just get along? And that's and the chief, being a Minnesota guy, and you can tell by his voice and his tone, he's a Minnesota guy, and he says that this woman is a victim of the Democrat Party. The only words he left out were Democrat Party. But I would have appreciated it if he had included the words the Democrat Party leadership and the Democrat Party leaders that are inspiring everything from keying cars to assassinating CEOs and firebombing dealerships, 100% the Democrat Party. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Dave calling from Silver Spring, Maryland. Dave is here. Dave, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Chris.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Chris. I'm going to take a crack at why you disagree with the Twitterverse on this particular subject.
Good.
And I think it's because you realize that Democrats are just large juveniles, and we don't throw juveniles in prison for vandalism. We make them make restitution.
Well, I think that it's, it wasn't she didn't firebomb it. How many Democrats have firebombed Teslas in the last few months and dealerships and shot them up with rifles? And have you seen anything, Dave, about the arrests of those people? Is that national news when people are arrested for firebombing for political reasons and shooting up with rifles, Tesla? We don't see anything about that, do we?
Certainly not the particulars. We hear some people, they've identified them, but we don't have the particulars. There's a difference between what this warped, frustrated, childlike creature did and someone who is advocating it to try to affect political change. That's terrorism. This is just stupidity, childishness, idiocy, stuff you're supposed to grow out of by the time you reach 14 or 15.
Right, yeah. Or at least 17 or 18.
I agree with you. Kids do stupid stuff. They're supposed to stop doing it when they get past a certain age. But I agree with you that this is just a lost little sheep. She doesn't know what she's doing. Make her pay. Maybe she'll learn her lesson from that. So I'm in your camp on that. But people who are advocating for violence, lock them up for sure.
I agree. And firebombing and Molotov cocktails and shooting up with rifles. They're trying to be terrorists. We might as well treat them like terrorists. And she's well into her 20s, not a teenager, not a kid. But we infantilize everyone. And she's apparently still living with her parents. But for me, and that's one part of this, the Andy of Mayberry approach to this incident, and I like the police chief on that. I'm fine, even though she's well into her 20s. But the lines that he put out about the rhetoric and the leadership and the leaders, clearly and exclusively, unambiguously, inarguably talking about Democrat Party leaders who are inspiring this madness, that she's a victim of the rhetoric that spewed by Democrat Party, the words he left out, leaders and leadership, 100% true. And every Democrat should have this, and every firebombing and every shooting tied around their necks. I can tell you, if these were all Republicans do it, every single incident would be tied around the necks of Republican Party leadership.
The suspect in this case may have been a victim. And I mean victim in terms of the rhetoric that is being spewed out here by some of those in leadership.
Hey, we're back. Hey, they're putting up the big fencing around the White House because mobs of violent Democrat criminals are planning on attacking the White House this weekend. Crews in Lafayette Park set up large fences outside the White House Thursday night ahead of planned protests of around 10,000 people. It's the local ABC station here. 10,000 people in Washington, D.C. on Saturday. I think my best girl and I might have to go down there, wear helmets and, bring supplies and stuff. I'm running out the clock, but that's I really can't go to that. So I've burned through the clock, and I don't want to go to our wonderful, brilliant callers when I have so little time because I'd have to rush you through. But, expecting 10,000 radical, transgender, violent, Elon Musk hating, Trump hating, American flag hating, Democrats, violent criminals, to converge on Washington, D.C. I'm going to text my best girl, see where we should get breakfast tomorrow near the White House so we can, maybe on a rooftop, so we can look down on them as would be appropriate.